Hello again from AM Builds. Today's video details my experience with the FC Tools DCS or Domino Centering Solution Deluxe version. I'm relatively new to the excellent Festool Domino and bought my DF500 last summer. My first project was a patio unit, and this gave me the opportunity to explore the capability of this fine tool, to understand the setup for drilling and sadly also make the occasional silly mistake. However, I was hooked and it's now my go-to tool for joining wood. With the winter weather here in Scotland not conducive to precision working outside, I've been developing my workshop as a permanent home for my tools. This has involved making cabinets, drawers and structural boxes, and this in turn has allowed me to experience the more production aspect of the Domino, where many holes are drilled in multiple pieces in quick succession. Sadly, we've already experienced the frustration of fence creep, although my Domino is a 2020 model, and we simply didn't notice things were awry until several boards were spoiled. Whilst browsing YouTube, I came across Peter Millard's The 10-Minute Workshop succinct and informative video about the FC Tools dominant alignment jig. The whole kit is beyond my budget for the volume of work I shall be doing, but the plate itself intrigued me as it looked so simple and might speed up and improve the more production type tasks I do. I bought this one with my own money. It is the latest deluxe version with the oval handle. For the foreseeable future, its use will be in 12mm and 18mm birch ply, so I have stored away the 1.5 and 2mm shims safely in case I end up using more unusual thicknesses. Assembling the tool is very straightforward. I'm using 18mm plywood today, and therefore I have the 18mm setting uppermost. 18.9 on this side for 18mm plywood, 22.11 for 22mm plywood with a shim, and on the other side 12.6, which is for the thinner 12mm ply. Back with the 18 uppermost, you fit the T-handle, which is simply done with a 6mm Allen key. And then it's time to fit the plate to the Domino. There are two small threaded pins which actually thread into the plate, which, although it takes an extra second or two, means that the pins are captive in the plate and therefore much less likely to lose them if the plate is detached and sitting in a tool bag, so they simply don't fall out. Attaching to the Domino, it's just a case of straight onto the base of the Domino, find one of them, and then before it's driven in hard, seat the second one, returning to the first one. And you're good to go. I'm going to show exactly how I, as a relative novice, have used this tool to make some 18mm plywood structures for my current project, where strength and tight joints are paramount. I'm using an 8mm Domino at 40mm long, 15mm in the hole on the flat surface and 25mm in the edge, all using the narrow setting on the Domino. So getting ready to do the job, two things that you'll certainly need are pencil and measuring tape, but three things that I used. The first one is just a little square block of plywood. The second one is a square, just two pieces glued and screwed, and what helps you do a good job is the stool, and you'll see that shortly. Firstly, I marked the boards and joint numbers to avoid silly mistakes. As it will not be seen, I've used my Sharpie here so you can see it. As strength is important and I also need to know where the dominoes are, I am marking the overlapping component every 100mm. This board would be the equivalent of the side of a cabinet. Firstly, I clamp a piece of timber onto the bench to provide something to push against, and the joint is then assembled and pushed against the timber. The vertical piece can be clamped to the timber if tall and falling over. Using the small block, the domino positions are marked on both pieces. Yes, it does mean using a rubber or light sanding to remove them afterwards, but worth it for the beginner to do a good job every time. I've made a larger mark than usual so that you can see them. The overlapping boards are now marked for drilling. The overlapping boards require the marks to be made across the end grain, and so the small corner square is used to continue the lines. A downward stroke of the pencil ensures the mark is visible where most needed. Time to set up the domino to 15mm depth and connect the power and vacuum. The overlapping board is now ready for dominoes, and I usually do this one first as the depth is less. If you forget to set deeper, you can always re-drill. If you forget to reduce the depth because you did the other boards first, you might blow right through this side panel and your job is spoiled. Here is where the stool comes in, as it allows your eye line to be right in front of the marks and you are comfortable and balanced rather than struggling by leaning over, reducing your precision and possibly introducing parallax measuring errors. The dominoes are drilled all with the narrow settings and, importantly, done slowly with patience so as not to chop up the surface of the plywood. With all but the 4mm cutter, the cutting starts pretty quickly on the stroke, so take your time. With the 4mm cutter, it is 10mm shorter than the rest, and so there is some travel before making wood contact, and it's very easy to become impatient and trash the surface of the thinner 12mm ply. The first ones were done with my hands out of the way so you could see, but you will see later with the large plate it is a comfortable and stable grip for the rest. The end grained holes are now cut at 25mm deep, quicker and much less likely to tear out. Time for dry assembly, always a good idea before the glue bottle comes out. You can see that the fit is just fine. Here is the structure dry fitted, and along with two others that form a subunit of one of my future projects. I've also been using the 4mm cutter to make 12mm ply drawers for my shop projects, and this box, an enclosure for a scientific instrument, was made by one of my sons as the very first time he had handled the domino. He is already a good woodworker and has produced a super result with a tool I firmly believe is within the grasp of anyone. Overall, I think the FC Tools DMX Deluxe is an excellent accessory for the Domino DF500 for the hobbyist user, and I shall be using it on every carcass stroke box cut from now on. I doubt that I'll ever do enough work to justify the jig system, but if I did, there is upgrade pricing from FC Tools for folks who already have the plate, so you don't have to duplicate the item in your tool collection. Once again, thank you to Malcolm, my son, for the production of the video. Please help give my channel a boost by liking it if you enjoyed it. Please have a look at our other videos, and if there are things of interest, please subscribe and click the notification bell. We have many more projects and reviews in the camera, and we'll be back with you soon. Goodbye.